Hi, this is Greg Johnson with Blue Book, and this is Week in Review, joined as always by Pamela Riemenschneider from another country.
Yes, I am at the CPMA annual convention in Toronto. The largest show floor they've had, and it was sold out early. A lot of people, a lot of new faces, and a lot of returning faces here. So a lot of enthusiasm for people to be here at this show. And then also, because we got to make everything about sports, both the Blue Jays and the Maple Leafs have played this week. And a lot of people I know are trying to find tickets to that game tonight. And good luck because everyone is talking about it. There's a lot of Maple Leafs jerseys on the show floor.
Do you think attendance is better this year because travel is a lot easier than it has been the past few years?
I would say partly, but travel is also a lot more expensive right now than it was. A lot of the people that I talked about said, wow, my plane ticket was a whole lot more than it normally is. The hotels, also seem like inflation has really hit that part of it. But it's a little bit different as far as travel is a lot easier, especially in Canada. Nobody had to have their vaccination records. Nobody had to have all of that stuff. Like we had, there were a lot of hoops to jump through last year that could have hindered attendance. None of that is happening this year. But the cost, I think, was more of a deterrent to anyone. But I don't think a lot of people were deterred.
I wonder if that'll affect events later this year because travel is probably even more up over the inflation level. It seems to me.
It seems to me too. And then just availability of seats on planes has been just a super challenge. I had surprise standby, and I've told enough people to make sure that they choose their seat on Air Canada. Otherwise, your fare just converts to standby. And so we're getting into those oversold situations. I was worried about the airport capacity because my home airport, there was a Leafs jersey that just walked by. It wasn't there. My home airport has just had um, its top 4 weeks of travel over the last 3 months. It's had those top 4 days all time number of people traveling. So they are far and away ahead of where they used to be.
Well, you should just go ahead and get a new airport like Kansas City.
They're actually working on expanding ours, but I haven't had the pleasure of going through the fancy new airport in Kansas City. So
Well,
one of
we
these
had to
days.
get it because the NFL draft is there this week.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Heck,
Oh,
well, American sports, yeah, we get crazy about choosing people. Anyway, what are you learning in Canada? What's different in Canada this year than has been in previous years?
I feel like there is a sincere and committed approach to sustainability in packaging, especially. The plastic commitments Star Group just came out with a really compelling video during those videos that they show, the sponsor videos. And they're working on some plastic packaging or unplastic packaging that's made out of resin from hemp waste, and it home composts in certain conditions. So that was a huge initiative. A lot of the new product showcases were different styles of packaging and not just fiberboard replacing clamshells. It's more like different ways to do clamshells. I saw one that was like shaped like a basket. It was like almost a colander for berries, only it was a top seal clamshell. It was really fascinating. I took a little video about it, so I'll definitely have that in my coverage. So, and then one of the panel sessions was about um, questions, comments, concerns, problems, issues that organizations of businesses have had when they are going into more sustainable packaging options. And I talked to Ron Lemaire a little while ago about the show, and he said that a lot of the programming and the educational stuff was really focused on not just talking about what the problems are, but solutions going forward. And they have a lot of committed members who are really working on these solutions.
So are they getting acceptance and encouragement and innovation from all the American companies that ship product there?
I haven't covered that angle of it. You're good. I haven't covered that angle of it. It's more like the Canadian companies are innovating ahead of regulation, because their government is going to make them do it, and they want to make sure that they're doing what they can to avoid unnecessary regulations, and then also just to be ahead of it, and before it becomes complicated and expensive to do so because they're being forced to do it.
Was there any talk there about the new effort in the legislature in Canada about, I guess it's Bill C-280, but essentially it brings similar financial backing as we have in PACA in the US. They don't have that in Canada. And I know that had been an effort for a long time. Is that any closer to happening? What did Ron say about that?
Actually, the sponsor for the bill was at the breakfast session yesterday and being recognized for his efforts. They're still in the process of reading it in the parliament, so it hasn't gotten to where they need it to go yet, but I've heard quite a few people talk about it and then also ask me questions about how PACA works. Because of course, Blue Book has some pretty deep knowledge on PACA and PACA protections and how they work in the actual market. So they're wondering, is this something that's effective for and how that's going to translate to what they're trying to do in Canada. So not a whole lot of detailed discussion because it's still up in the air on whether or not it'll get passed. But there was a mention of it and then recognition for the lawmaker who sponsored the bill.
Yeah, it seems like that might have a little more possibility of going forward than seems a lot of the stuff that we work on in North America in our Congress, just we talk about it for decades and decades. So maybe this will happen.
Maybe it'll happen. For us, it's like although one of the things that I sat in on a few of the learning lounge sessions, and it really like put a bee in my bonnet here about nobody wants to work anymore. That kind of old saying where one of the folks was like, labor is an issue, and some of the solutions that they're getting, and Canada just recently had the ability for wholesalers to get guest workers. Before it used to be just like agricultural, like pickers, and people who are working in the greenhouses and things like that. And one of the Montreal wholesalers has gotten a crew of folks from Guatemala to come work in their wholesale operation. And then they're talking about making conditions more favorable for workers. And the guy from the Ontario Food Terminal brought up the fact that, we're expecting people to come in and work at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And is it really, really necessary for us to continue that practice? And it got me thinking, and I'm like, why do we do that anymore? I want someone honestly to explain to me, is this something that we should look at? Because I can't think of a 25-year-old who wants to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and go to work at a produce terminal. My grandpa he's 85 years old and he still gets up at 2 o'clock in the morning like he's still working at the Safeway warehouse.
Well, there's a lot less traffic then.
There's a lot less traffic then, but the way that produce is delivered, retailers can receive, get stuff any time of day nowadays. It's not like they actually have to have like a horse and buggy with iced broccoli going through the streets in the middle of the night so no one's inconvenienced with the dripping.
No, but restaurants don't want to have deliveries at 6 p.m. when they're serving customers. So I wonder if there still might be use for that in the wholesale that serves food service.
That is true. That's a good point. So see, that's why I need someone to explain this to me. So he brought up a good point where he pointed to a market in Australia that had changed its hours to try to get over the hump of not being able to attract talent. But then it also reminded me of a lot of the innovation that people are talking about, the automation and the AI. And a lot of that automation is in pallet picking and finding ways to get those crews automated and turned into more of a robotic operation so they don't have to have so many people doing that job at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Well, in Australia, it might make more sense because it's the middle of the night over there when it's day here.
Well, that's the local terminal market. Come on. They're not upside down while they're doing it either. Come on, man.
Oh, North American bias here.
That's a dad joke.
All right, so are you gonna totally? So are you gonna speak Canadian for the next few weeks?
I was gonna say prah-duce for the next few weeks. It's possible. I always come come home with a little bit of a clip in my speech. But I'm married to a Minnesotan, so that's half Canadian anyway.
That's true.
All right, well, that's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up.